reckless love takes what is a negative term and attempts to turn it on its head. Without success.
Without success, no! Hey, I'm Josiah, and I love worship music.
And I'm Kyle, and I hate it.
And these are Worship Music Reviews. For Worship Music Reviews, we listen to popular worship songs, and we give our perspective on the quality from both an optimistic
and pessimistic
perspective.
The Berean test was created by Vince Wright to measure theological depth and clarity of worship songs. Songs are identified as milk or meat, simple or complex, and quality is listed on a scale of 1 to 10, as well as whether you should use it in a worship service or not. Today, we're listening to Reckless Love by Cory Asbury. Once again, we're going to go through a few categories: musicality, how good does it sound? Lyricality, are the lyrics thoughtful, artful, or clever? And theologicality, does this song have rich theological lessons on the Bible, who we are, who God is, and what life is about? Then we rate the song on a scale of 1 to 10 and milk to meat for theological depth. We're comparing our personal takes against Vince Wright's Berean test, and we read his review at the end of the pod. Let's play the song.
So this is like a live version. I actually have not watched this version. Have you heard this song, Kyle?
I have.
Okay.
Oh, well, you know, he's wearing a New York Yankees hat. How can he be a Christian? Horrible.
Yeah, shame on
horrible, you. Horrible, horrible. Do you just really love Yankees fans?
When this song came out, it just like, it went like number one worship single, number one. I think it even broke into like the main charts and everything. Like this song skyrocketed. Massive number of streams. Also created a lot of kind of random controversy, which I'm interested in talking to you about.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with the controversy for this.
This to me was like the moment when a major shift happened, and when worship music, for a long time it had been like, you know, Chris Tomlin and others that were a little bit more, not quite as associated with the charismatic movement, a little bit more part of the other side of the evangelical movement. But right. When Reckless Love came out, it was like everything just shifted hard over to like mainstream was now charismatic, which for someone who kind of grew up in the charismatic world, it was an interesting shift to watch.
So I've never heard Cory Asbury sing ever either. I've only known that he's the guy who wrote a bunch of worship songs. He's got a lot more country/lower.
He does. If you actually listen to like the stuff that he's releasing now, it's like covers of Goo Goo Doll songs and country songs, and that's more of his
interesting.
Vibe.
I don't hate his voice.
I mean, for live,
he turned
also.
the Yankees hat behind to get holier. Yeah, the no front-facing Yankee symbol means he got holier. Oh yes. Wow. You know the Holy Spirit is here if you turn your hat backwards. You know, like.
I think he's just that's like the worship leader equivalent of like rolling up your sleeves. He's like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
100%. It's about to get serious. Yeah,
it's about to get serious, bro.
Is that Brooke Ligertwood?
Yeah,
legit
so. All right, so we had an interesting conversation already going, but let's talk right now. Like, what are your initial reactions to this song?
This is one of those songs that I feel like the moment it came out, I loved it and I thought it was awesome, and I played it a bunch, and then got totally sick of it and stopped playing it, and everybody all stopped playing it at the same time too, so I like didn't hear it for years, and then have just kind of picked up. I think I led this song last week for the first time, at least like corporately in just a long time. I think it's a great song. One of my like measures for like, is this worship song one that I really enjoy or I want to sing, is he saying something that I haven't heard in another worship song? We've talked on this show some about the idea of Christian soup, you know, just taking Christian ideas and that you've heard in 1,000 other songs and restating them in like a new soup. Just reach in the cauldron and pull out another Christian word and string it all together, and there's your worship song. But something I do appreciate a lot about Cory Asbury and his writing in general is it's not super soupy. Like there's some lines in this song that I think are quite original for a worship song. So anyways.
The thing that I think of with this song is I remember there's a certain brand of Asian American worship leader.
Okay.
He's male. He probably has like a white t-shirt on or like jean jacket or like tan like jacket on. Like a corduroy or like jean jacket style, right? And when he sings, his eyes are closed, his lips are like pursed a little bit like this, and he's going back and forth as he sings like this. You know, no mountain you won't climb up, like this. You know, and I'm like, all right, like this is what I think of. And this was very popular in certain sections of churches that I happened to like go around. It's because I was traveling a lot, so I would see a bunch of churches and stuff.
Sure.
And like, I remember thinking about this song and like basically thinking it as neutral or blah, right? Which for me is like, oh wow, I actually kind of like this song because normally I'm like this, I hate this. Right? So I was like, okay. I want to jump into the controversy right away because I was floored when we talked about controversy about people really having a problem with this song because they're saying like the word reckless is like, is God's love reckless? I'm like, okay. Like this is a
Why?
little crazy. Like and like people are like, this is not appropriate. God's not crazy. He's not, like reckless implies dangerous or like foolhardy or something like that. Let me get your take on it. But like, what do you think from
Okay,
this? Like from a
so-
theological depth perspective, because we talk about the theologicality, musicality, lyricality.
Sure.
Like theologicality,
So-
is that fine?
The fascinating thing is when we look into the Berean test on this, we are going to know exactly where the guy stands, whoever came up with that, on this issue, because whether he loves this song or he pans it will directly hinge on his opinion on the word reckless and what he thinks about the word reckless.
100%.
So this feels like the type of song that would like prompt people to create something like the Berean test. So here's where I stand on it. I feel like there's some lore behind the song that goes back even further from another song that came out of the charismatic movement and then became kind of more mainstream, which is How He Loves by John Mark McMillan, which then got picked up by David Crowder. So that song is very famous for the line Sloppy Wet Kiss, which got changed to Unforeseen Kiss, which isn't that much better.
Dude, I think Unforeseen is worse.
It's a little, it's more creepy. It's just like,
Unforeseen is like,
there's not a lot of like
consent?
mutuals. I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. So after that happened, it felt like that was like the precursor, like the prophetic like layout of what was to come with maybe a bigger fallout with Reckless Love. So the thing that I think bothers me a little bit, so just for people who don't know, this created a lot of controversy, like Kyle was saying, because the word reckless being attributed to God's love was, people were like, that's an inappropriate word to use for that description. But the thing I think people forget about sometimes is, one, part of the purpose of music and of songwriting and all of this is to create metaphors and analogies that help point us to higher truths that we can't even utter with words and we can't explain with words. And so anytime we use a word to describe something about God, we're actually using a metaphor. Every word, like when I say the word apple, I cannot conjure in front of you an actual apple for you to see. Apple is the word I'm using to represent something much more advanced than just the letters combined into this word. And so the word, in a sense, any word we use to describe God is a metaphor. And so in this song, saying the word reckless, he's creating a metaphor to describe in creative language something that is unfathomable by the human mind. And I think that's a beautiful use of a word like reckless, because there's nothing that we can necessarily say that I think carries the full truth of the complexity of something like the death of Christ and his resurrection. It's infinitely mysterious, infinitely complex, and I think I would love to see more words like reckless used to help us meditate on what the implications of Christ's death actually were, because nothing we can use can actually capture it. And if we did, if we think we can, then basically all we're doing is just directly quoting scripture, which, I don't know, people fall into like a bucket of safety where they are afraid to say anything to God in their own words. And when that happens, I think we actually lose the ability to praise and worship God authentically.
So I'm a poetry major in college, and I read a lot of poetry. One of the things that's very firm is when I believe poetry, when you're trying to write poetry, good poetry is trying to capture the undescribable with words. You're going to attempt to do it. And as you do so, right, you can acknowledge that it's impossible to totally capture something. Like, how do you capture the feeling of depression? Mm-hmm. It's hard, right? So like, I wrote a poem once though about depression, and it was about like dropping a coin in between the slot between my refrigerator and my countertop and trying to grab it. Right? And not being able to because my hand is too big and the coin is too small. And the coin's not really worth grabbing, but I still lost something of value. And that's how I described depression, right? And like, is that a perfect description for how it feels to be depressed? No, it's not. But if God is truly infinite and perfect and good, every single word we possibly use cannot accurately describe him 100% perfectly. It's impossible. Even when we say God is holy, right? Like, our human understanding of holiness is flawed. Mm-hmm. So we can't totally capture it. That's a pretty good word to use for God, right? We see that in the Bible, but it's wrong. Here's a good, actually, as I think about it, here's a good example. Let's say we take these lyrics of reckless love. It's, oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, jealous love of God, right? Jealous is a word that is used to describe God's love in the Bible multiple times, right? But if I was to tell you God's love is jealous, right? Or like, hey, like, are you jealous, bro? Like, jealous is not necessarily a word that we would associate with positivity. It's like, why are you so jealous of this other person? Like, why are you envious of this other person, right? Like, it's like very closely associated for us. And like, there's a deep theological reason why we call God's love jealous, right? But for our human, like colloquial, conventional understanding of the word jealous, that's a weird word to use. It's in the Bible, but it's to describe God's passionate like love, where He wants you to put Him first and above all other things, because that's the best thing you can possibly do. And therefore He is jealous for you. He is jealous for me. Loves like a hurricane, haha, right?
Heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss.
Yeah.
I still sing that version.
Right?
I can't sing the unforeseen one, man.
Yeah, unforeseen one. Yeah, but like it. Like, I think that word is imperfect because a lot of people are gonna be like, what? Like, especially if you've experienced like someone being jealous when they shouldn't have, or if you've experienced jealousy yourself, you might be like, I don't want God's love to be like that. But we're talking about this much higher concept of what jealousy means. And I would say the same thing about this word reckless, right?
It kind of reminds me a little bit of how in the Bible it talks about the fear of God, and how so many times there's reference to the fear of God as the beginning of wisdom, that God is close to those who fear Him. And there's so many references to the word fear. And then later it says things like perfect love casts out all fear and fear not. And I looked up like in, the Greek and the Hebrew, trying to figure out, man, what is it, a different word? Are we translating two words, fear? And no, it's the same word, because there isn't a word in human language other than fear to represent the type of reverence that we ought to show God. And at the same time, there isn't a word to represent the darker corners of fear that we have. And so all throughout Scripture, the word fear is used to describe two entirely different things, almost infinitely different things, one very dark and one very holy. When I hear reckless in this song, Reckless Love, it captures the shock of the cross for all ancient cultures, for all modern cultures. When we look at the idea that God would come into the body of a human, live a life, be a baby and a young man and a grown man, and then He would die for the sake of redeeming mankind. That whole narrative itself is so shocking, wild, bizarre, that the word reckless actually helps capture our sense of bewildered wonder at the fact that God went through that path instead of just snapping a finger like He could have to redeem things, because he invents all of the obviously there are mysteries here that we don't fully understand, but from our limited understanding of God, He created the universe and the very laws by which everything stands themselves. But He chose to create the laws in such a way that this was the way that He redeemed humanity, I think, as an example to us of His nature and of what He's actually like. Yeah. So I think from our perspective, in that context, it's a great word to use.
Yeah. I think from a lyric perspective, right? When you go from that line, the never-ending reckless love of God, oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, right? This 99, of course, is the idea that there's a shepherd who leaves the 99 and go find the one. And this is an example that that Jesus uses to talk about God's love. One, from a theological depth perspective, it's coming from the teachings of Jesus. Points, right? But I think this is a very appropriate metaphor, because I don't know about you, but like if I was in a scenario where there's an impossible circumstance and I'm in charge of 100 people and one person goes missing, do I go and risk that other person? I think it's actually my duty from a human perspective as a leader to not go for that one person and keep the 99 safe, right? Utilitarianism demands that I just stick around. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Saving Private Ryan, but I like that movie a lot. It's very bloody. Right? But these guys go on this crazy mission to go save one guy, and you see like 15 people die, and you're like, wait, why did this happen? Why did they do this? They should have just left this dude to die. But like God's love is like the soldiers in Saving Private Ryan. And and I think that's why that word reckless is actually relatively appropriate. Now, I do think what is something that I would prefer we do in these scenarios, which I'm not sure worship music can necessarily accomplish, but in like one song, I would be very impressed if someone could do this. But like if we were to say God's love is reckless, but wise. God's love is jealous, but kind. God's love is audacious, but soft. Like this, but this. It's both. To like try and capture the like depth and the nuance of what we're talking about here, right? Like we should fear God, but He's also our greatest friend. Like
Capture
this
the
kind of-
paradox a little bit.
capture the paradox of what we're doing, because a lot of this stuff is paradoxical. It's hard to understand where God's like, is there any single thing in your life that has absolutely no downside in any context? That's technically God, right? And that's it. Like, but He's the only one. He's the only thing. What do you think, just from a musicality standpoint, from this? Because for me, I want to tell you, this just sounds like it sounds more like it sounds more like ChatGPT made a worship melody. Here we are.
It's almost hard to say because I think so many songs have emulated this song that it's a little bit it's difficult to say. I will say that this song is contributing to what I would call the Oceans wave.
Yeah.
Because it's a type of worship song that is what I often also call like the low eyebrows, like intense, like we're worshiping song, which I feel like ever since Oceans came out, we kind of got stuck in this rut of just making songs that are kind of like intense and serious and sort of like emotional, but in like more of a heartthrob emotional sort of way. So this very heavily leans into that. I do think, though, it's one of the better examples of that genre. So is that my favorite corner of the worship music movement? No, it's not. Partly just because I think it's very overdone. With this one, I'll almost just give it a pass because I think it was sort of it felt like a crescendo of that movement and a defining sort of factor of that. But I agree with you. It is among a sea of songs that sound just like this.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I think the majority of worship music just sounds the same from like 2010 on, and it's like it's all kind of come soup for me. And like then we have some early like 2000 stuff that's like, oh, like we're trying to recreate, like, as I said, the Goo Goo Dolls or like Creed.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like who was it? Jeremy Camp had some songs where like I still believe. It's like,
like Jars of Clay and them are like very like Creed-esque and like
Jars of Clay is Creed. I mean I think that's a stretch, but
in terms of like the vocal quality
next time.
Yeah, in terms of the vocal quality, for sure. Like that kind of genre of man
that
singing
era.
Who's got that like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go into our. Can we use this song unironically in a Christian movie? I think the answer is no.
Not at all.
On a milk to meat scale, where would you put this from Theological Depth?
Okay. So here's the hard thing. I'm going to have to rate this one almost higher than I feel like I should, just because when I hear this song, especially the first time I heard it, and if I try to strip out how many times I've heard it, it does capture for me really well a lot of the emotion of the gospel in a clear and defined way that I respect. So for me, I'll put it at an 8 as far as kind of depth from that perspective, even though it's a simple song and it doesn't have as much going. I still it hits me, and that's got to be kudos for me.
Yeah, so if you're jumping in the rating itself, like I'd probably put it this as like a 7. Like it does actually present the gospel, right? It's God's love is there, and He fought for me, and he died for me, and He does this thing. Like I think okay, like I think it does kind of present the gospel fairly well, and it talks about an aspect of things that we don't necessarily talk about all the time, or like some of my favorite hymns that are like God's like amazing love. Like I don't understand how this, amazing love, how can it be done for me? Or like Amazing Grace is like this big thing. Like I think this kind of has that. From like a milk to meat scale, I'm gonna say this is like some nice blue cheese.
Blue cheese. I love that. I love
or like
that.
goat cheese, like a fragrant cheese that's a little. It's not cheddar. It's not pepper jack. It's not the typical stuff. Mm-hmm. But for a while in the restaurant scene, there would always be offering like some feta or like blue cheese salad, and you're like, all right, like we've done this for 3 years now. Like we can kind of get over it. I don't need to eat that every day, but it can be good every once in a while,
So
I'm blue cheese.
So from a if I'm like by myself worshiping the Lord, this is not going to be a song I'm going to pull out necessarily. Mm-hmm. I appreciate what it does corporally, but I don't feel that type of thing from it. It's like, that really thick bacon.
Oh, okay.
What is that, like country fried steak? You heard a little bit of that twang, that twang in Cory's voice. I'm going to go more with the country analogy. It's like some good thick bacon.
Yeah. Pretty typical meat. Maybe not the healthiest meat you could eat in your life, but like, okay, it's meat.
But it's good. It's good stuff. It's a good breakfast,
It's a good breakfast.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm in on that. Let's look at Vince Wright. I'm so excited for this one.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so Vince writes Berean
Now, I just
test.
want to pause. I just want to remind you when we did this on that, what was that Hillsong song that we just like panned like hard?
Oh, the one with the like This Is Living Now?
Yes, This Is Living Now. He gave it a 9 out of 10. So I just want to remind you of that while we're going into this.
Yeah, you're right. All right, here's Vince Wright's Berean test on this song. With such high hopes, Asbury's track, Reckless Love, takes what is a negative term and attempts to turn it on its head. Without success.
Without success, no!
However, it does speak to the power and glory of God's love for us, the lengths and depths God is willing to go through to have us. Well, I would have liked to see the lyric, Why God Loves Us So Much. It is overall mostly biblical, positive, and uplifting. Okay. Feel free to use this as a part of your worship set if you're not by the word reckless as I am. However, understand that some of your parishioners might take exception. Perhaps it would be wiser to choose a less controversial song. Score 7 out of 10.
Okay, I get it. I feel it. Wow. That's quite a take.
Okay, so I actually would have been like, you know what, Vince Wright, I agree with you here. I'm already on the same page, but also like you're like, you don't like the word reckless. I understand. You still give it a pretty good score.
There's other people who won't like it, so be careful. That makes sense.
Yeah, be careful. But like, I actually kind of agree. In light of This Is Living Now getting a 9 out of 10, I'm like,
come on, bro. Come on, Vince. I will say
so much better than that.
I will say I do understand his dynamic. I feel like anytime I've led How He Loves corporately, whenever you get to the sloppy wet kiss part, you can watch people visibly like, which one's he gonna do? You know, like what's he gonna say? So I can imagine Reckless Love going a similar route where,
Yeah, well, I also know like there's generally men in the audience who are like, I'm not going to sing sloppy wet. I'm a man, and it's like, all right, like whatever, bro.
I'm just glad that David Crowder didn't take Reckless Love and be like, all right, the unforeseen love of God.
Yeah. We don't need it, David Crowder. Don't do it. If you're thinking about it,
David.
Stop.
David?
Stop, David. Stop.
We don't need it to be unforeseen.
It's like the opposite scene where he sprays them, he sprays Michael and Dwight. Like, no. No, David, don't do it. Resist the temptation. All right, so
That's crazy.
Thanks for watching our show and or listening along. If you like our show, you can like or follow for more content like this.
Peace.
Hi, friends. Are you still looking for the perfect Christmas gift? Check out Who Are Frontier Peoples. It's a prayer guide that introduces you to 36 people groups who have yet to hear about Jesus. Through captivating color illustrations, get a glimpse into their culture and be inspired to faithfully pray that the gospel will reach them all. You can download a copy for free or get a physical book delivered to you using the links on the screen. Also, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Worship Music Reviews. If you're interested in more content like this, subscribe to the podcast and follow us at Indigitous US if you like the pod, and send us a DM to give a song suggestion. Merry Christmas and have a great new year.